Hi there! Welcome to this week's Accessibility Bite. Today, we're diving into a critical topic that makes content more accessible for everyone, alt text. Whether you're creating images for your website, social media, or learning materials, understanding how to use alt text is key. By the end of the session, you'll know how to identify what alt text is and why it matters, determine if an image should be marked as decorative or informative, and write effective alt text for informational images. Let's dive in. Alt text, or alternative text, is a short description of an image that communicates its content to people who may not be able to see it, making sure everyone gets the same information. Think of alt text as your way to explain an image, concise, clear, and meaningful. Alt text is more than just a nice to have, it's a must have. Whether you have a slow internet connection, have images disabled, or are using a screen reader, alt text is the only way to understand what an image is about. Not all alt text is created equal. Here are some quick tips for writing effective alt text. Be descriptive but concise. Focus only on the essential details. Avoid phrases like image of or picture of. Screen readers already indicate that it's an image. Context matters. Ask yourself, what would someone need to know about this image to understand the surrounding content? So how do you know if you need to write alt text? Well, every image needs alt text if it supplements information in the text, if it conveys an impression or an emotion, or if it's a logo. If an image is purely decorative and adds no meaningful content, then you should identify it as decorative. Here are some things to watch out for. Don't leave the alt text field blank. That's like locking people out of part of the conversation. Avoid decorative language or hashtags inside the alt text. Don't over-describe. Screen readers read alt text as one combined element. There is no way to pause or repeat just a portion of that description. Now that we've introduced what alt text is and why it is crucial for creating inclusive content, let's see it in action. In the following demonstrations, we'll walk through how to determine if an image is informative and requires alt text, as well as how to add alt text images in emails, Microsoft products, and Canvas pages. Let's practice.
Let's explore how to decide whether an image needs alt text or not, and how to write it meaningfully. This example shows a diagram of a 3D printer part. The content on the page is talking about how to prevent a 3D printing clog. The diagram is supplementing the information on the page. Therefore, it does require alt text. Without this image, some of the meaning might be lost. Effective alt text is concise but descriptive. We usually aim for about 1 to 2 sentences. For this example, we can describe what is happening in the diagram and the parts being discussed, such as, filament is being fed into the heatsink, but a piece has become stuck, causing a cold end clog. Images that convey an impression or emotion should also have alt text provided. For this graduating class document, the image conveys a congratulatory impression. In the alt text, we can describe the image as a person in academic regalia raising their arms. Congratulations! This briefly describes the image and also conveys the impression it's meant to provide. When writing meaningful alt text, it's important to consider what is the context of the image provided. What experience is it offering to the user, and how can you provide that same experience for all users? If the purpose of the image is to simply improve the look of a page rather than to convey an impression, emotion, or to convey or supplement information, it may be a decorative image. For example, a colorful banner in an email that doesn't provide any additional information should be marked as decorative. Let's start by adding alt text to an image in an Outlook email. If you've added an image to the body of your email, you can right-click on the image and select Add Alternate Text. This will bring up a dialog box where you can type in some alternate text. When you're done typing your alternate text, you can click the OK button. You can also access the alternate text dialog box by selecting your image, going to Picture Format in the top toolbar, and then selecting Alt Text. If you've attached your image as a file, there is not a way to add alt text. Instead, you would want to include any descriptions of the image attached in the body of your email. In Microsoft Word, you can also click on your image, right-click, go to View Alt Text. It may automatically generate some alt text for you. You may or may not need to make some edits. If your image is purely decorative, you can also check the box for Mark as Decorative. This will remove any alt text supplied, and it will be ignored by screen readers. Very similar to the other two programs, in Microsoft PowerPoint, you can right-click on an image and select alt text. In here, you can see that it has generated some alt text for me, or I can mark it as decorative. Make sure that you're also checking for any shapes that you might have added as well. These can also be seen by screen readers and should probably be marked as decorative. Depending on the version of the Office 365 program that you're using, you may not see an option to mark something as decorative. In these cases, it's advised to put a very brief description, such as decorative banner, in the alt text field. Lastly, we'll take a look inside Canvas. In Canvas, when you go to insert an image, you'll see that it provides an alt text box for you and a box to mark it as decorative. If you have an image on the page where you didn't provide alt text when uploading, you can see that there's a number floating above the Ally Accessibility checker. Clicking on this will give me the option to provide alt text for any images that are missing it. If I need to edit the alt text for an image, I can click on the image, go to Image Options, and it'll bring up the Image Options panel where I can provide some alt text or mark it as decorative.
I hope you found that demonstration helpful. As a wrap-up, let's remember, alt text is a small detail that makes a big difference. Every image should either include alt text or be marked as decorative. By providing alt text, you're ensuring that everyone can access and understand your content. Thank you for joining us for this Accessibility Byte today. Remember, with every image you describe, you're making the world a more accessible place.